so long is like alchemy.
We entered the cold north on Thursday, severely undermanned. So the expectations were tempered. But what would KD have for an encore, right? I mean, 40-point game after 40-point game, as Golden State, has got things done a little different under Slim. And his first matchup against Kawhi, really since that first-round matchup with San Antonio when Kawhi went out with the ankle injury. Now, Toronto, obviously with a different look here, but you got some nice youth and athleticism sprinkled in amongst the veterans. Siakam, OG Anunoby off the bench, Van Vliet. But let's jump right into this because it's a long one. Clay, and right away, my guy, Damian Jones with the mid-range jumper. Well, I'm just curious why we don't see 2 or 3 of those a game, right? It was a scripted play, and he confidently knocked it down. Now, Siakam, it's one of those situations where you kind of got to yield the 3, but if he's hitting it, that's the next step for him. Here we see Quinn Cook kind of getting big boyed early on by the bucking Bronco, Danny Green. Now, maybe I was just hoping we would see Bell in the starting lineup against Toronto, but I was wrong. And look, Damian, there's nothing wrong with his positioning, but there is something to be said about opponent's confidence level against certain guys. And I think Kawhi's eyes got big when Damian kept switching on him. Like, he just felt very confident, and sometimes that's all you need. Because Damian's in the right spot. He can't do much more, but it got Kawhi going early on with that switch. And then how often do you see that? The claw reaching from behind and catching KD Siakam out on the break in Toronto out on top quick. Now, I must say, I fuck with Nick Nurse. I had to watch, kind of like the way he handled the players. I knew he was a really smart basketball analytic guy, but I like his demeanor on the sidelines. He's fiery, he's a little bit kooky, and I think Toronto clearly buys into what he's selling, and they like him as a coach. KD pull up, that's just tough, man. In Siakam's face, Toronto, the rare team that really has length to kind of challenge Durant, so I was iffy about what he could do offensively in this game. Jones gets lost. Ibaka not shooting well from outside, but he loves the mid-range. A disturbing trend is turnovers out of timeouts called by Kerr. I don't know, maybe if it's because teams are sitting on our plays or it's a lack of execution. They're trying to execute too deliberately. But pay attention, we tend to turn the ball over out of timeouts called by us. There's KD, a little running floater. I had mentioned pregame, I don't think Kawhi is quite as athletic as he used to be, but one thing he's doing is he rises up super quick. If you watch, it didn't matter who was on him, whoever was challenging him, he was beating them up in the air by like a good second. So the challenge was coming late. I think it's very difficult to anticipate when he's gonna rise. He has an awkward rhythm. Watch Ig here with a horse-like finish, barely getting it off before he taps the ground. Now, both Damian and Bell are guilty of this play right here. But what I talked about is opponent confidence. I think Bell gives guys a little more to worry about, right? They're a little bit more worried about his recovery speed and just his bullish nature, where with Damian, they're more confident. Clay, we've never seen him hit more leaning jump shots than I did in this game. Back to the comfort level. He's in place. He's just comfortable and confident. You can tell KD was getting aggravated. He views Kawhi as somewhat of an equal, a guy that, he wants to go against and measure himself against. And Kawhi was getting off early, and there's another turnover. And so you see Toronto out in transition, and we were really in danger of losing contact early in this one. On the road against a hungry team, trying to prove something. Now Jerebko switched on Kawhi, and I think we missed McKinney here. I would have loved to seen a more athletic guy, a smaller, quicker guy on Kawhi. I think the way you play him now is you got to force him to the cup. He's too comfortable with that pull-up shot. S-Dot, I'm really impressed with his awakening over the stint of games. Now, has he been great? No, but I just see a different effort level from S-Dot, and then the sky hook from Jonas Jerebko. Okay, I see you, Jerep. I see you, Jerep. But, towards the end of this quarter, I think we kind of righted the ship and showed some fight here. Watch Darrell Wright here in the corner. If they're calling little travel calls, I don't know if he shuffles his feet on that catch either. It's very subjective with these bang-bang travel calls, but you see the rotations and the effort are there, but when you have the others for Toronto railing threes, it can be disheartening. The way the NBA is headed, these traditional centers, they're becoming like specialty weapons that come in just for like spot minutes. Valanciunas 12 points in 15 minutes. But look at Looney's second effort. Behind all this drama and KD's big scoring outbursts and Clay finding his way, Looney is just quietly becoming more and more confident, like with each game. There's little things that he's doing that you would just never see him done in the past. Livingston, the proper closeout. And he's just been looking kind of chippy. I like angry Sean. He's just been looking aggravated. Bell gets in the game, and here's his little football trot where it doesn't allow him to get down court and get in position, and he just gets bulldozed to the rim. But one thing that dawned on me is something that he could be really good at is this right here, taking charges. I can't remember him taking many of them because he's always chasing the shot block, but the way he moves laterally and his quickness technically as a big, I think that could be one of his calling cards. Quinn only 8 points. He had a stint of a few buckets here, but what I like from Quinn is I didn't really notice him getting cooked on defense, so I thought that was a positive. Another lanky contest on KD, and that's really what makes his performance even more impressive. It's not like KD started out hot. He just kept playing hard until he was, right? And I think this is something that we haven't really been able to appreciate from Durant because everything's come so easy for this team. We haven't really seen KD have to tough things out and show his willpower like we have these last 4 or 5 games, and I'm impressed with it. We always remember how things end, but up until the fourth quarter, Clay really had himself an efficient game despite the leaners. Now here's where Damian Jones has the advantage over Bell for sure, right? This deep positioning here, he's just heavier and he's bigger, but I counter that with it's a 3-ball league now. Would you rather give up a couple of those or a couple of corner 3 balls? Clay, another leaner. That's tough with Kawhi draped all over him. Now this first half was really owned by Kawhi. More switching, this time the victim's Bell, and he pulls for 3. But there was an adjustment towards the end of this half here that they may have stumbled upon. I talked about Durant wanting to measure himself against Kawhi, so he stopped switching the screens and was fighting over and challenging Kawhi at ISO ball. And he's great at it, no doubt, but the difference between him and, say, like a Harden is, if you fight over the screen or that pause of indecision in a screen, Harden will kill you. He'll pull the trigger or he'll drop a dime on you. Kawhi, everything's on his own time. He wants to ISO, take his time, and then pull the trigger when he's ready. So he's not necessarily going to make you pay for not switching screens. So second half starts here, and this is the difference, right? You talk about Bell's struggle deep in the paint. Well, Damian, he just doesn't get out to shooters well. If you're wondering why I'm kind of focusing on this, it's because of a YouTube video I did on my main channel, and I'm just trying to clarify my points of why I prefer Bell. And to be fair to Damian, being a 7-footer for, probably since he was 16, he's just not comfortable or used to getting out there to defend it. And by the time he realizes he has to, it's just too late. Now I'm going to hold it right here. Remember we talked about head knock, the new play? Danny Green is icing it. Toronto has scouted it. Icing it means he's not going to let Clay go over that screen. Now, when this happens to Steph, he flares towards Quinn Cook to the 3-point line. Clay kind of misreads it and dives to the rim where Ibaka's able to pick him up. KD's like, F it, I'm shooting. Now, we'll get into Iguodala's offensive struggles later in this game. And we all know, like, at this point, he probably pees sitting down. But I want to give the old man credit. I think defensively, he was fine. The effort closing out on the perimeter in the right spots. He was giving a decent effort, at least on that end. I think there's a confidence issue on the offensive end as they're able to force the turnover there. And then it was right around this midway point of the third quarter where KD got to cooking. Hezzy, left hand, got him. Clay being overplayed on the 3-point line, cuts back door and gets the nice finish. Ibaka, not nearly the shot blocker he once was. And Siakam, this is more of his game. We saw him rail a couple threes. This is really what he does well. So that's why I think we saw our guys hesitate to really close out on him on the 3-point line. Jerebko continues to just bang the glass, and then this one's tough. I talked about changing the scouting report on Kawhi. Look, he doesn't really want to get all the way to the rim. There was an open lane there. And in the past, right, you would yield the jumper because you didn't want to let him finish at the rim. I think things have changed with the way, look at Clay flare this time off the screen, hop back and knock the 3-ball down. But back to Kawhi, you got to play him differently now. One thing Toronto is susceptible with young players is transition defense. I think they're less aware, young players much less aware in transition. Remember in the beginning of the year when I was talking about Jordan Bell's hand size? I literally looked it up. I'm like, does he have small hands? Because I think what happened in these sequence, there was a couple things. I think, one, he doesn't have great hands. And two, I was talking about comfort levels, and I was talking about Bell and Jones's defenders. I think Ibaka's presence and reputation he was probably giving him and Siakam a little bit too much credit around the rim, and then it was compounding him catching it cleanly, because we've seen him catch tough one-handed lobs. I don't think his hands are bad per se. I think he gets jumpy and worries about certain shot blockers. And then I was on my KC and JoJo. All my life, I prayed for a shot like that. KD on the offensive glass cleans it up, but I was so excited for Looney to take that 3. All right, maybe I shouldn't sing. Somebody help me out, though. Did Toronto get called for a traveling call? Because there's another one on Damian Lee. And when you do the hop step, your feet, you have to come down at the same time. That's where guys get in trouble. If one foot hits before the other, that's where they can nail you. And then towards the end of this third quarter, the Slim Reaper arrived in the North, continually getting to his spot and elevating, getting back-to-back-to-back jumpers. Anunoby takes his turn on him. He's like, look, man, I'm pulling up on your block and breaking you down. We playing Tetris. OG, be humble.
It's a beautiful move.
I know, I said I wasn't going to sing, but that was rap. Maybe it's Drake courtside that's got me inspired here, man. But let's be honest, this was just a spectacular game. KD understands, they know he's taking it, so he pulls up from 40. Why not? The absolute heat check. Steph celebrating. Drake's body's ready as we head to the fourth quarter with new life. Kerr sticking to the script to start the fourth, resting KD. Could we hang on? Jerebko running the lanes, finishes with two hands, showing he can still elevate. Now, it's always tough to decide when you're going to double a great player, right? Because you do it too early and they adjust. You do it too late and they're too hot, right? But I agreed with the doubling late on Kawhi because we know his weakness is his passing. Make these other guys beat us. Clay, that's out of character right there, but Looney continued to pound the glass. And then look at Damian Lee cut to the basket. Most shooters don't cut well. But hey, maybe Damian learning from old brother-in-law over there, right? When we picked up Jerebko, I knew he was kind of a rugged guy that would fit, but I did not anticipate him being this guy for us, hitting the floor multiple efforts, and easily he's becoming the new fan favorite off the bench, right? Hits the floor, gets us to possession. And then, like I said, this was a Warrior career high for Jerebko, I believe. 20 points, got kind of lost in the KD outburst, but it's a huge three to cut this thing down, and Drake's in his feelings while Steph's air dumping all over Air Canada. That's not what it's called anymore. I hate it when they change arena names, right? I'm just a stickler for that. It always sounds weird. It's always some weird branding. Looney, 7 points. Every one of them were big. And Wright is another one of these young Raptors where you're kind of hesitant to close out on him. You know he'd rather get to the basket. He rails the three. Jerebko again, this time the and one, barely. So the second unit doing their job while KD rests. And this is really where a lid was put on the basket for Killa, right? He had been fine. And then these huge momentum swinging looks that he got in this fourth quarter, he just couldn't find the basket as Kawhi continued to dance and show off his mid-range game. You can't play that much better. Again, I'd like to see him get forced to the cup a little more, and then it's the Spur connection, Danny Green pass, wraparound, Bell. What else do you think he's gonna do? You gotta get up on that sooner. He rails the three. That was a demoralizer. But this game was like a heavyweight fight, man. Big haymaker after big haymaker. Every time they hit a big three, we hit a big three. Something I like Durant's been doing in the last 2 weeks or so is finishing with two hands at the rim. And really what it's doing is it's ensuring he's going to get the basket. He's not going to get stripped, and if he gets hit, it's going to be a foul. Defensively, I can't complain, man. Given the personnel we had against the opponent, they have so many places they can attack Toronto offensively. You know, I thought down the stretch, we gave a great effort and didn't have too many mental errors. Kevon Looney, I talked about, only 7 points. Every one of them was just clutch. 10 boards. There's the tip. Perfect timing. And look at him showing a little emotion. It's just, he's a grown man now. Loon's a grown man. Now, this is tough. I don't know what you do here. He's crowding him. He's basically daring him to drive. He still finds a way to get the shot off. 37 points on 58% shooting from Kawhi, all basically from the mid-range and being contested. I really thought one of the keys to hanging in this game was controlling Lowry. And he was 4 of 14 on the night, and I think some of that had to do with Kawhi having the ball in his hand so much. And the three ball was answered by the three ball. I don't even think he shot that cleanly. The ball looked like it was slipping out of his hand as Chris Webber pointed out there courtside. And here, this is funny, man. You know he's heat checking. You know he's hot. But if he misses this shot, I'm killing him. You're killing him. We're all killing him. But he doesn't. The boy's gifted. Ties the game with the fadeaway in the corner. Kawhi's opportunity to answer and win the game, and they make him a driver. And Kawhi makes the mistake here. He had two guys in the air. I'm guessing he could have got to the line if he wanted to. But maturing in the Spurs system, remember, it's a system. It was never ISO, go get a basket. So Kawhi maybe not adept at doing that to close games. Ibaka was very quiet, but that's his spot right there as he knocks that down to start overtime. And here was just a spacing issue. I'm going to hold it here. Iguodala, he's looking for Jerebko in the corner for the three ball, but for whatever reason, they're both in the paint, and obviously Iguodala wants no parts of any type of shot. Now, this travel call on Jerebko, that's the LeBron special right there, that little drag momentum of the pivot foot. And I wonder if Nick Nurse was in the ref's ears all game, because that's what it sure seemed like. KD pulling up, and he just couldn't be stopped. He was so hot that at this point, everything should have been running through him, right? He should have just brought the ball up every time. That's how I saw it. There's the turnover. Danny gallops down the court late and hits really just a dagger to go up 3 with 2 minutes remaining in this thing. And then this is the call that I've looked at this a bunch of times, and I've talked about this before. I just don't think Durant would be quick enough to think to not go for it. If he felt it go off his finger, I think he would have instinctively jumped towards the ball, even for a split second. But watch his body. And you know what it is? It's the NFL rule. There was inconclusive evidence. If you look at it and you slow it down, you can't really tell. So I don't think they could reverse the call is what it comes down to. But if you use your damn head, you would understand that KD didn't touch the ball. But I love this. He says, Jerebko, get off. I want the challenge. So you got to respect that. Kawhi, not as explosive going to the basket, but he got to the free throw line. Here we go. Jerebko, you're not going to get a charge call moving that way, away from the basket like that. So I'm fine with the no call here. And then you're going to see a tip in from Ibaka. And honestly, after being screwed, at least in my view, on the last call, I'm like, well, they'll probably screw us here again, right? But thankfully, clearly shows the ball is in the goal. Offensive goaltending. We get the ball. Here's the thing with this play. Andre isn't used to being smothered like this because he's a non-shooter and he's a bigger guard. So believe it or not, I'm going to credit Lowry with that play. I think it shocked Iguodala, and he's not used to, again, being smothered because he's a bigger ball handler. Guys, back off him. But the play doesn't get talked about. Watch Kevon Looney here, in crunch time and overtime, drive to the basket and get Jerebko a dunk. So we talk about his confidence growing by leaps and bounds. The confidence to make that play in that moment was huge. And this was key too. Durant willing to switch. I wanted to see if he got too forceful trying to stay on Kawhi. He allowed Klay to make the double switch, and we stop him. So here we go. And honestly, I'm surprised KD gave the ball up. I really am. And I think Iguodala was too. And here's where he gets in trouble. So I'll bring it back. And honestly, I felt bad for Iguodala. I thought I would be upset. I felt bad for him. But take a look. He does a little hop skip right there. That's where he gets in trouble. I don't think it's a travel. I think the little hop skip from the catch is what fools the referee's eyes. But to truly know if it was a travel or not, we need a reverse angle. We need to see if the ball came out of his hand before that back foot came up, and there's just no angle of that. But overall, like I said, I found myself, one, I felt bad for Durant just because of his performance. I wanted it for him. And then two, because Iguodala's mistakes were so magnified, in an overtime game like this, I felt bad for him. I did. And I hope that this kind of, eats at his pride a little bit, and maybe he will dial it up a little more before May, right? I'm out, yo.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.